A little after 9 o'clock, the tactical commander, Chuck Serban, rushed into the area and said, "Everybody gather around, I've got news." Robert Rodriguez, who was our undercover agent, had just come out of the compound and had just spoken with David Koresh. And Chuck Serban says, they know that the ATF and the National Guard are coming, but they're shaking and holding Bibles, so we're going to go ahead and go. And we were all a little bit set back because all of a sudden the clock had been turned up on us. So we quickly started getting our gear together. It was organized, but there was a sense of urgency. As we quickly were getting our gear together, some of the medics would come by, and I remember distinctly one of them asking me, "What's your blood type?" And I said, "A positive." And he wrote it on my neck with a marker. And I just looked to the agent on my right. I said, "That's the first time we've ever done that." And obviously it was the last time we ever did it. But that was one of those moments that really stick in my mind from that morning.
Tell me what the plan was, how you guys were going to go in.
Right. Well, the name of the operation from the onset was Operation Trojan Horse. Right. And it derived that name from the fact that we were going to use cattle trailers draped with tarps so that they couldn't be seen in from the top. The two trailers pulled by the trucks were to pull into the drive and approach, and then as soon as we got into the position, we would open the trailers and come out and execute the search warrant. As you're driving along, it was deadly quiet in the cattle trailers. There was none of the normal joking around that law enforcement has when we're going to do one of these things. Part of it's to calm our nerves, part of it's to show that brotherhood, but it was just deathly quiet in the cattle trailers as we pulled up to the compound. And my team leader, Jerry Petrilli, over the radio put out the "It's showtime," which indicated to us that the warrant was going to move forward. At that same time, he also put out, "There's no one on the compound grounds," over the radio. And I remember looking to my left saying, "That's not good."
When you hear that news that he says the ATF and the National Guard are coming, did anybody ask any questions or say, "Hey, wait a minute"?
And you heard a few rumblings about, well, they know we're coming. Is that true? Did I just hear that correctly? And right as we were getting on the cattle trailers, I distinctly heard one agent say, "Well, if they know we're coming, then why are we going?" Once we'd lost that element of surprise, some people figured then it was time not to execute the warrant. And obviously, the information that the tactical commander had was that they were not preparing for a fight, but were rather praying and shaking, holding their Bibles. So the thought was at that time that we could safely do the warrant in his mind. Obviously, it did not turn out that way.
How many guys in each trailer?
So there were close to 80 agents on the ground. Again, I was in the lead trailer, and I was approximately 4 people back from the gates that were going to open where we were going to come out, and I was directly behind our team leader. There was no gunfire. I remember looking out of the side of the trailer, the slats, and seeing the compound close up for the first time, and it just seemed so huge. It was as large as like a hotel. It was larger than anything we'd ever executed a search warrant on before. And as the vehicles came to a stop, just as our door became to come open, I heard the first gunshot.
What kind of gun did it sound like?
Because it wasn't the distinct crack of a gunshot, it was a more muffled sound. But immediately after that, it was followed by a cascade of bullets coming.
You guys were there serving a warrant for a search and arrest for illegal weapons. From what you heard, did you get an indication that you were going to find what you were looking for when you heard those first shots?
Yes. The first shot was semi-automatic, but shortly thereafter, automatic weapon fire was intense. We were not armed with any automatic weapons. We had semi-automatic weapons, mostly 9mm, and the rapidity of the fire was definitely automatic weapons fire.
Did you hear anybody from inside the compound?
I heard someone yelling, get down," was the only thing that I made out, and then the gunfire started. We were in a dead run as soon as we hit the ground, running towards the front doors. As I was running and looking at the building, on the second floor I could see muzzle flash in several of the windows as I was running, and the curtains, blinds, glass flying out towards us. And so I was returning fire to wherever I saw muzzle flashes as I ran.
And you got fairly close to the front door before you were driven back, correct?
my momentum carried me through the gate, and then as I looked down, anticipating the front doors to have been opened, they were shut, and rounds were coming through the front door. I can only describe it as looking like snow as the white foam inside the doors and the paint came off it. I could see agents to my right were trying to get away out from the opening area there. So I was giving them covering fire until I was pushed back by machine gun fire that hit in the sidewalk in front of me and hit me in the face with concrete and bullet fragments.
And talk to me about what cover you guys had out there.
Right. Cover was limited, and vehicles would not stop the rifle rounds that they were firing, so they were more concealment. As I came out of the gate, I remember telling my team leader, he was standing behind a wooden fence, I yelled at him, I said, that's concealment, not cover, which in our world means that concealment hides you, but it doesn't stop the bullets. So I went behind this red car, and at that time there was an agent there, and I met him for the first time, and Clay Alexander, and Clay was asking me if I'd been shot, and I'd said, no, I don't believe so. I said, have you been shot? And he said, yeah, I think I've been shot in the legs. So I felt the back of his legs, and I pulled back my hand. I didn't see any blood, so I said, well, if you're shot, you're not bleeding bad.
And then you guys both went back to shooting.
Went back to work, yeah. That was, again, the hail of gunfire was intense in those first 45 minutes of the gunfight. There was a van next to the red car I was behind, and there were 4 agents behind that van. One of those was Steve Willis. So, and Steve Willis, shortly into the gunfight, had been returning fire and ducked back behind the van, and I saw the glass on the side of the van shatter, and as I looked, I saw Steve Willis fall, and the bullet had gone through the side glass of the van, the back glass, and it struck him in the left side of the head, and he was killed immediately. The bullets, there were so many of them, and then shortly after that is when they started firing the .50 caliber Barrett at us.
And several of the agents actually were wounded with one of those rounds. Were you close to where that happened? Did you see that?
There were several agents that were behind a red and white truck, which was right behind me. We're trained in law enforcement to hide behind vehicles, engines, and tires, the rims of the tires, to protect us from gunfire. But a .50 caliber Barrett is a kind of a bullet that you use to shoot down airplanes and things like that. And that engine block did not stop that round. It went through there, fragmented, and wounded both of the agents that were behind that truck.
Do you have a sense of who started this?
The first round came from the inside, followed by a cascade of bullets. And then we returned fire, and in the end, I think the Texas Rangers estimated that the Branch Davidians had fired somewhere around 10,000 rounds at us, and that we had returned fire with around 1,100 rounds.